So do you have any final thoughts on RE4, David Kedge?
I still think Dead Space was the better remake this year.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
Gladly. Um, in terms of story, I feel like Dead Space added more, while Resident Evil 4 added more questions than answered them. While Dead Space at least kept the same story, but
When you
added
say
on
added more
more.
questions and answers, what do you mean by that?
Okay, so in the original Resident Evil 4, he gets the damn Plagas. He doesn't get a piece of amber. He gets an actual Plaga sample. And that leads into RE5, which has the Plagas back.
But isn't the Amber the Plaga sample? Isn't aren't those interchangeable?
Not really. The Plagas came later. After they
Right,
got the
the
sample
Plagas
in
is in
Plaga.
the Amber.
Right. But the Plagas sample was alive in the original game. It's inert right now. Like, they have a big guy.
Right,
They have their
I don't
big
think
guy.
that's a big leap to say you have a sample of the parasite to you can use it in
But the thing is,
RE5.
Wesker's using it in RE5. But
Yes, that does
he got
that
that.
there's no that doesn't feel like it makes any less sense.
He got it from Ada.
Yeah. Yes,
Ada
I
has
played
people
RE5.
either, and the way it's making it look, Ada doesn't give him the sample. And if all the samples were on that island and it just went the way of the Arclay Mansion in Raccoon City, I don't know where he gets the sample now.
Good question, because I think Separate Ways is still on its way.
Hopefully that answers the question because I'm confused on what's going to happen now.
Plus, they'll probably just rewrite RE5 the way they've been rewriting the other games.
That's another thing. We're skipping we've skipped an entire chapter of Resident Evil to get to this point. We skipped Resident Evil Code Veronica, which brings back Wesker, gives him shows off his powers, and shows off a little bit more of the viruses he steals, including the T Veronica virus, which is sort of a stepping stone to the virus, to the way he acts and the viruses he uses in RE5. Like, okay, I'll explain a little bit. In Code Veronica, the virus there essentially turns you into this sort of mutated, like, hybrid of, I'm guessing, plant and insect, because that's the only way I could describe it without, like, actually having you play it. But the thing it becomes, you need an incubation period for that virus, or else you'd become a mindless, like, mutant. The big baddie in that game went through a 10-year incubation process just for the virus to work properly. And she could control, like, anything in her path. She could spew fire. She could mutate. She could control ants. It's a really weird game. And
And Wesker does that same
essentially,
thing to himself, I presume.
essentially Wesker does. He has Ouroboros, which is essentially a more violent version of the T Veronica virus. Essentially, it will mess you up to the point of non-existence. Like, I'm not going to say they're the same virus, but they're essentially, T Veronica is the predecessor to Ouroboros, in my opinion. So
In your
either
opinion, or is that fact?
opinion, because I don't have, sadly, the RE archives to prove this, because those would have more information that I could use. Those are books.
The Ultimania?
No, they don't have Ultimate. Unlike Square Enix, who keeps reprinting their books, Capcom only printed these for like 2 months and then said fuck it, which is bullshit. And essentially, it sucks because there's more information on the viruses in there. I mean, sadly, other like stuff like Project Umbrella is down. It was a Wikipedia for Resident Evil, or else I'd have more information. But essentially, that's a game that featured more info on Wesker, and then Umbrella Chronicles featured more info on Wesker and how he took over the assets of Umbrella. But that's a light gun game for the PS3 and the Wii, and essentially most of that game is non-canonical anyway. And by this point, I think I'm probably rambling, which I'm apologizing
Yeah, you
for.
lost me. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm sorry. That's why I'm apologizing. Essentially, and not only that, with a new Wesker, this is a newly voiced Wesker. It's not DC Douglas. He's essentially burned all his bridges, and a
He
different.
has?
Uh, he broke an NDA with Capcom.
Oh, I don't care about
That is
that.
not something you do with Capcom. You don't fuck the hand that feeds you. Essentially,
Yeah, but voice actors break NDAs all the time.
not the way he did it.
Like, remember when that guy just sat there and said, I'm voicing Venom in Spider-Man 2?
Who?
Oh, what's the fucking actor's name? But, like, the voice actor for
Todd?
Venom just said, yeah, I'm voicing Venom in Spider-Man 2. That's my voice.
Tony Todd?
Yes. He just said it on Twitter. Randomly.
I think he had a permission. I don't know. Tony
I know he
Todd
did
was
not.
like,
They
Tony
very
Todd
clearly
is
did
the
not want to
Candyman.
reveal that yet.
He's the candy man. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. Like, he has a hook for a hand. He'll
Besides,
kill me.
DC Douglas has more important things to do, like masturbate to the Mona Lisa.
Yeah. But also, like, Resident Evil 1, I think, needs a remake. Doesn't need a remake, but it does deserve to have, like, a canonical story at this point. As does Zero. I think we need to, like, go back and... We need to fix... The timeline needs to get set in one place before we go on to remaking RE5.
I don't think that's likely to happen.
I think they
I
would
don't
remake...
think the demand for it is there the way there was for like an RE4 remake specifically.
I have seen the community for Resident Evil. Besides the bullshit racism over Jill Valentine, I think they've been bitching for a Code Veronica remake more than RE4.
Code Veronica seems like the likely candidate, but if we're going back to 1, does not seem likely. Going back to 0 does not seem likely. Code Veronica, though, I can see it.
I honestly think I think what we need the most is a set canon, like, God, what's the word? A set canon timeline at this point, because it's a fucking mess. Because now we have
Hasn't that always been the case though?
Yeah, that is. That's why I'm saying we need a set canon timeline. Because we have the PS1 era timeline, we now have the PS4 era timeline, we have the GameCube era timeline with the Resident Evil 1 remake.
And the Winters era timeline.
That's actually just the PS1 era timeline. I know, isn't this confusing?
No, honestly, I don't even think about the overall plot of Resident Evil when I'm playing the games because it doesn't matter to me.
There's the Resident Evil movie timeline.
Oh, like straight up, I just let the story wash straight over me. I don't even think about it at all.
The Resident Evil CG movies, which I don't even think are canon, but are told they are canon. Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City's movie timeline. There's the 4D Executor timeline.
What about the Alice timeline?
That's the Resident Evil movie timeline. I mentioned that in the earlier.
But Alice is such a very special woman, you understand.
She's part of the Mila Jovovich timeline. Where somewhere between
she is so special and super and awesome, and she's better than Jill Valentine.
Where between Apocalypse and Extinction, Alice became both a U.S. soldier and fought monsters in Afghanistan, a character in Dead or Alive, and a fucking vampire in Ultraviolet.
And a monster hunter.
I already mentioned the monster.
And a Monhun. Video games are weird. You understand that? Maybe video games are a mistake, actually. Maybe we should not have video games. Maybe that was a mistake. To allow video games to exist for this long.
Like anime, video games were a mistake.
Well, anime, you can't... That's unforgivable. That's a sin. No, anime should be destroyed.
Anime was a mistake, says David Cage Miyazaki.
Because I, Yoshikage Kira, have a rock-hard cock. That is a JoJo Part 4 reference.
God, I remember people talking about JoJo when I was in like Game Fan magazine in '95, but I've only heard people get into it like recently in the last.
Because
5
the
years.
anime is recent.
God, was it like?
Yeah, the anime is a very recent phenomenon. The manga's been around for decades, but the anime is very recent.
No, I think it was actually an anime back then. Let me check.
There was an OVA, not an anime.
Okay, yeah, that's probably it. Actually, yeah, it was the OVA back then.
Yeah, the anime series is recent.
We have turned from Resident Evil 4 into an anime podcast.
Like,
We are not sponsored by HelloFresh.
the anime, my opinion of anime is no. No anime. You're not allowed.
My opinion is anime peaked in 1997 with Pokemon.
But I think this is a good remake. I think they did a good job adapting RE4 for a modern era.
I mean, I don't think it's bad. I think it's a good game. It's in my top 10 this year.
I think they made a lot of the right decisions in adapting RE4.
I think just like compared to Dead Space, it's not the same class. Like I could go.
I did enjoy that Dead Space remake. That was a really good remake.
I platinumed it. It was.
I don't
so
platinum
much fun.
video games anymore, but yes.
Like if I feel like I want to, I platinum it. I'm not gonna platinum RE4 because of that freaking shooting gallery. Sadly.
But I did very much enjoy like the Dead Space remake myself. I thought it was a pretty good remake. I did play that. But that was this year?
Yeah, January.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we got Hi-Fi Rush. We got Dead Space. We got Resident Evil 4.
Oh,
we got
Hi-Fi Rush was so good.
We got FF16 next week.
Hi-Fi Rush was so fucking good.
Amnesia the Bunker, System Shocks remake.
I need to play this remake at some point. I have a code for it because I've kickstarted it, but I haven't actually launched it yet.
Oh, okay. I was about to say I have a GOG link if you want it.
I kickstarted it, so I have a copy on Steam.
Nice. My brother likes it. I might play it soon. I don't know.
But I think that is where we're going to call it for the day.
Done. That is awesome.
Next week, I will play... I think it's Jak 3 is next in the docket. Either that or Uncharted 3. I have to check which one is up next. But one of those two.
And
Back to Naughty Dog for a hot minute.
And on my YouTube channel, I will suffer before we start playing. I start just taking a break for Final Fantasy 16 as I began my nightmare by replaying Callisto Protocol. Because I apparently make horrible decisions.
I mean, that's on you. I play good games.
I know. I do this to myself because I want to see if they fixed a lot of the problems I have.
See, I just play good video games.
Yeah, but people apparently like it better when I'm suffering. So I got to give the audience what they want.
It's your sanity, not mine. Take care, everybody. I will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.